takeaways from this win for Ohio State over Penn State. They crushed the Nittany Lions. There's not much to say other than that, but I do have some takeaways in one stat that's really, really big if you want to get excited about Ohio State playing in March. The first is, let's talk about this Ohio State defense, okay? This Ohio State defense is starting to hit its stride, and if there's any time for you to hit your stride, it would probably be the end of February and into March. That's what Ohio State is doing right now. So, Ohio State, since that game against Virginia, February 14th, happy Valentine's Day to those who celebrate, the Buckeyes are 29th in adjusted defensive efficiency. They're the sixth best team in adjusted defensive efficiency in the Big Ten. And then if you look at a game-by-game sample for the Buckeyes, Purdue, you held them below their season average. Iowa, even in a blowout loss, you held them below their season average. Against Michigan State, 66 points. That's below their season average. You blew out Wisconsin, held them below their season average. And Virginia also held below its season average. Of 5 games since February 14th, Ohio State has held each of the teams that they have played below their season average in scoring. This is an Ohio State defense that has caught a lot of flack. People have not been happy about that extended 2-3 zone. People have not been happy about some players, whether it be a Christoph Tilley or a Devin Royal or a Gabe Cupps or an Ivan Nagovin, whoever it may be. Everyone has problems with certain players, and that's fine. As a whole, though, this Ohio State defense is playing as well as it has this entire season. They're 57th in adjusted defensive efficiency this season, and that number has come up significantly over the past 5 games. They were like in the 70s before this run started. This could catapult Ohio State into March and potentially a run in March, because the offense with Bruce Thornton, with John Mobley Jr., with Tayson Chapman coming off the bench, if you get Brandon Knoll back, you just have more options. Christoph Tilley. I mean, there's so many players that, of course, you're going to lean on John Mobley Jr. You're going to lean on Bruce Thornton, but you're starting to see options emerge offensively to where the offense doesn't really tend to be much of an issue. And I'll talk about the offense here in a second. The defense is what's really, really encouraging for Ohio State at this point. So as we move forward, if this defense can play this well, the floor, it's raised for Ohio State. Now, Ohio State's offense is just as hot at this point. They scored 94 points against Penn State after their third best game of the year in adjusted offensive efficiency against Purdue. They scored 82 against Purdue while shooting above 50% from the field. They just shot an insane 16 of 23 from deep against Penn State. Look, when you have a healthy John Mobley Jr., actually, he's not even fully healthy at this point. When you have a John Mobley Jr. who's fresh off a finger injury, now 3 weeks to the day off of finger surgery and injury, when you have a productive Tayson Chapman off the bench, Bruce Thornton just Bruce Thorntoning. He's just in his zone. He's carrying at this point. Amari Bynum playing really, really well. Christoph Tilley, he's now strung together a couple of really nice games for the Buckeyes. Again, if you get Brandon Knoll back and Devin Royal, I haven't even mentioned them. If he can knock down a 3 or 2 here and there, if he can score from the mid-range, if he can get down into the low post and find some buckets that way as well, this offense can end up being really, really good. And again, you can start to talk yourself into this Ohio State team is going to the NCAA tournament. It's going to make a run in the Big Ten tournament, especially if they get that 7th seed. I think a lot of Ohio State fans are talking about this. They're trying to figure out, how can I slot Ohio State into the best position right now? Look, if the Buckeyes get a 7 seed and then they get to play Indiana again, for example, and then they get to play Nebraska, Michigan State, whatever that may look like, I mean, there's options there. There's options for Ohio State to go on a run. So with that said, with as good as this offense is, with as good as the backcourt is, the spacing that Bruce Thornton, John Mobley Jr., and Tayson Chapman provide, what Amari Bynum is giving to you down low, what Devin Royal, you think Devin Royal continues to be a product of consistency for Ohio State. Offensively, this team can be just as good defensively, and you put that together, and you have a team that, again, if they're getting hot, are they making a run in the NCAA tournament? Are they getting a 10 seed, beating a 7? Then are they beating a struggling 2 seed or whatever? I'm not saying, I don't want to get that far ahead, but it can be fun, right? We can say that it can happen. Last thing I'll say here, as far as takeaways, I want to go back to the Michigan State loss. Okay. Ohio State lost that game 66-60. It was highly frustrating. It was discouraging. It was another game during a stretch of games where you said, man, Ohio State coulda, shoulda, woulda had this game. They didn't. They lose. They've got to go make up for it somewhere. They did make up for it with the win over Purdue, but it hurt. It really, really hurt. But after that Michigan State loss, what I said was, look, what if the past 3 games for Ohio State, at that point, it was Michigan State, it was Wisconsin, it was Virginia. What if those last 3 games are actually a reason to be encouraged and a sign to show what's really possible with Ohio State? Because again, I know Ohio State lost the lead to Virginia. I know they lost that game. But what they showed in that game, they get up early, they get up by a lot. They show that they can put it on a team when they're hot. Did they lose the lead down the stretch? Did Bruce Thornton run out of gas? Yes. But they didn't have John Mobley Jr. in that game. So if you do you win that game? Is he worth 4 points, 5 points? Yeah, probably. You might win that game. And then they go on and they crush Wisconsin. They just stamp Wisconsin all over the floor. And then the very next game, they play Michigan State. They lose by 6, but they fought and fought and fought. And again, if you have John Mobley Jr., do you win that game? Is he worth 7 points in that game? Maybe not, but maybe. So what if this all comes true, right? What if we look at the fact that Ohio State, they took care of USC at home. They then played well. They were super competitive against Virginia. I'm not here for moral victories, but let me build this narrative here now. Then they crush Wisconsin, super competitive against Michigan State, lose at Michigan State where they were like 37-8 over the past 4 years or something crazy like that at home in Big Ten play. Iowa game, outlier. You're never going to see a game like that out of Ohio State for the rest of the year, I don't think. Not because they're that good or anything's changed. It's just you're not going to see them probably get crushed by a team of the caliber of Iowa again this year. It's unlikely. Then you beat Purdue, then you crush Penn State. Are you turning into a team that's getting hot in March? Here's your answer. So far, yes. Since February 14th, do you know where Ohio State ranks in Bart Torvik? I will give you a couple of seconds to decide. Think back to February 14th, Valentine's Day, Ohio State played Virginia, they lost. They lost Michigan State, crushed Wisconsin, crushed Penn State, get crushed by Iowa, and beat Purdue. You know where Ohio State is in Bart Torvik? How about we set the over-under at like 21? That's maybe where I would guess. Under. Now you're probably thinking like what? 16, maybe 17? Under. 13? Under. Tim, no, stop. It couldn't be. They couldn't be a top 10 team. Yeah, under 10. Ohio State is the number 9 team in Bart Torvik since February 14th. They are the 9th best team in the nation since Valentine's Day. Do not let this Buckeye team get hot. Do not let it happen. Because if you do, Ohio State beats Indiana. They go to the Big Ten tournament. Couple of wins there. You're in the NCAA tournament as a 10 seed or a 9 seed. And I don't know. Does Duke want to see Ohio State? I don't know. Hey, the last time they saw them, they would have said no. This time, I don't know. All right. Enough with the funny business. Let's talk about Ohio State's resume at this point, and then we're out of here. Okay. So Ohio State 19-11, 11-8 in Big Ten play. This is a Buckeye team that with the win over Penn State, now 8 games over 500. There are rules that we must follow in order to get a team into the Big Ten or into the NCAA tournament. Number 1, you got to be top 40-ish in your team sheet overall score. Okay. Let's look at the numbers here. Net 34. That's before we've refreshed from Ohio State and Penn State that game, that win, before games on March 4th. So we go back to March 3rd for that. Other than that, quad 1, 2-10. Now, as far as I'm aware, I think that Wisconsin has beaten Maryland to this point. They were giving the business to Maryland. Wisconsin, I think 32nd in net as of time of recording. So that would be the same through the same game. So the March 3rd, Wisconsin is 32nd. What if Wisconsin jumps 2 spots and that's another quad 1 win? Look, Ohio State needs 2 quad 1 wins to be comfortable. Okay. With all the other metrics, get to 2 quad 1 wins. They're there right now with Purdue and Northwestern. By the way, Northwestern is 73rd. Come on, Wildcats. Keep it up. You got to keep winning here, okay? They're 6-1 in quad 2. That number will go to 7-1 with the net refreshing tomorrow, okay? Or today if you're listening or watching on March 5th. 7-1 in quad 2. No quad 3-4 losses. Check that off the box. You can be top 40 in all the other metrics. 38th in wins above bubble. 28th in Ken Palm. Ohio State's now 26th in Bartorvik and 36th in BPI. That will refresh the next day along with the net. So right now, the metrics, as you put together the entire team sheet, notice again, it's not ranked wins. We don't care about your record. What we care about is what actually is seen on the team sheet. By the way, you need to be at least 3 games over 500 to get in as an at-large. Auburn flirting with a lot of danger there. Ohio State will be fine there. I've also gone back and checked. Every team that has won 20 games by Selection Sunday and 12 Big Ten games has made it to the NCAA tournament over the past, 4 or 5 years or something like that. I've looked it up. It's on the Substack. You can check it out. That said, Ohio State, with a win against Indiana, would move to 20-11 and 12-8 in Big Ten play. That most likely gets you there. Now, I'm not saying that it's a hard and fast Ohio State is in. What I will say at this point, though, is if Ohio State is 20-11 and 12-8 in Big Ten play, and you get that win over Indiana, and you give a loss to another bubble team, you are looking at Ohio State team that's going to be in the field of 68 no matter what happens in the Big Ten tournament, as long as you don't have crazy bid stealing situations. On average, you're going to see about 2 or 3 bid stealers every year. If that's the case, Ohio State is in. Now, I won't guarantee it, and we have just dumb engagement farmers, massive, huge hammer dropping, scoop, Michigan, blah, blah. You know exactly who I'm speaking of. I will not utter their name here. Saying that Ohio State is in with a win against Penn State. Just shut up and just let the basketball people do the basketball things, and you can do the football things and also obsessing over Michigan. That's fine, but we need to stay in our lanes here. You don't belong here. I'm sorry. Ohio State is not in with the win over Penn State. If they lose to Indiana, they lose in the Big Ten tournament, very good shot they're out. However, right now, Ohio State's going to be seen as in. If the Buckeyes beat Indiana, there's a very, very good chance to go to the NCAA tournament. And if they win one game in the Big Ten tournament, they're in. It's over. The Buckeyes are dancing. Get ready to make your plans for a Thursday or a Friday first-round matchup for Ohio State playing in the NCAA tournament. Maybe in a first 4, maybe. But especially if Ohio State wins 2 and they get to 21-12, they're probably playing as an 11 seed safely in or as a 10 seed and not in the first 4. So Buckeyes in good shape right now. Buckeyes are in very good shape right now after this blowout defeat over Penn State. We will be back tomorrow. I'm getting tired. It doesn't matter, though. Again, you don't care if I'm tired. I am getting tired. Doesn't matter. I'll get you a show Friday. Ohio State, Indiana preview, the biggest game of the Jake Diebler era. There has never been a game under the Jake Diebler era or in the latter days of Chris Holtmann where you could say if you win, you're probably in the NCAA tournament. Ohio State has not been there yet. That's improvement from Jake Diebler. That's improvement for this program. Is it where we want to be? No, we know that. Of course not. But it is improvement. This is the biggest game under Jake Diebler coming up here on Saturday. Thanks so much for being here today. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. 5-star review, please, as well. Subscribe on YouTube. I think we're going to be over 300 by the time this show is done. Until next time, I shut up before you shut me off. Go Bucks.